The air hangs thick and wet. A blanket woven from heat and the smell of mud baking by the lake's edge. For these Homo sapiens, existence is a relentless rhythm of thirst, hunger, and watchfulness. The clan moves in a shared current of instinct, their individual thoughts submerged in the collective need for food, water, and safety. A hyena's call in the distance is a punctuation mark in a story they all know by heart. In this world, utility is the only measure of worth. A hand that can nap a flint edge, an eye that can spot a lurking crocodile, a back strong enough to carry a child to the next water source. These are the components of survival. She is one of the quiet ones. Her hands are not the most skillful with the stone core. Her legs not the swiftest in the chase. She exists in the spaces between the vital actions of the clan, a shadow moving at the periphery. Her contribution is measured in gathered roots and the silence she keeps. But her eyes are different. They do not just see threat or opportunity. They see the perfect, repeating hexagons of a drying mudflat. They see the way the weaver bird braids its nest from grass, a deliberate, intricate architecture. They see the spiraling order of a snail's shell. These patterns are a language without sound, a form of order in a world of chaotic, brutal function. Today, something shifts. At the water's edge, away from the others, she finds the sun-bleached spine of a large fish. The bones are fine, sharp, and evenly spaced, a tool for a purpose she has not yet named. She grabs it. The jagged points a strange comfort in her palm. Her reflection stares back from the still water, a face she barely recognizes, framed by a chaotic mass of hair, tangled by wind and tide. It is a thing that simply is, like a stone or a patch of scrub, unthinking, unmade, with a slowness that is a rebellion in itself. She dips her hands into the grey, silken clay of the riverbank. She works the cool mud into her scalp, through the thick strands of her hair. The sensation is alien, a deliberate application of the earth to her own body. Then, she takes the fishbone. She draws it through the clay-heavy hair, not with violence, but with precision. A line appears, then another. She pulls, twists, and coils, her fingers following a design only she can see, an echo of the braids of grass and the spirals of shell. Each motion is a quiet declaration. This is not for warmth. This is not for camouflage. This is for the shape of the thing itself. This act of profound and useless creation is a new kind of symbolic behavior. A whisper of the human future in the deep past of prehistoric life. When she finishes, she waits, motionless, as the African sun beats down, baking the clay into a hardened, sculpted crown. It is intricate, ordered, and utterly her own. She rises and walks back towards the heart of the clan, the setting sun at her back casting a long, strange shadow before her, the low hum of communal life, the rhythmic chipping of stone, the murmur of voices, the cries of infants, falters, then dies, one by one. They turn to look. There is a moment of pure, unconfronted silence. The world has a certain grammar, and she has just spoken a new and terrifying word. The children, unbound by the rigid rules of adult fear, point with wide, curious eyes. But the elders see something else. The old matriarch, her face a roadmap of famines and migrations, squints. Her gaze is hard, unforgiving. This is a deviation. It is a thing of no use. A vanity that invites ill fortune. It is a challenge. The ridicule comes next. A volley of guttural sounds and dismissive gestures from the young hunters. Their own status reinforced by mocking what they do not understand. She does not flinch. She finds her place by a cooler part of the fire, an invisible wall now separating her from the others. Food is shared, but the piece of roasted to be passed to her is given without looking, an exchange devoid of the contact that binds them. In this small community of ancient humans, to be set apart is to be perilously close to being cast out, and to be cast out is a sentence of death. The primal fear of isolation is a cold stone in her gut. The distraction proves dangerous. The cohesion of the group, Their most formidable defense is fractured. The sentries who should be scanning the encroaching darkness are instead casting furtive, resentful glances at the woman with the crown of clay. In the deep purple of twilight, a pair of eyes reflects the firelight just beyond the circle of trampled earth. A lone hyena, bolder than it should be, has sensed the schism. It has smelled the lapse in their collective will. The lead hunter sees it. He grips his spear, his knuckles white. But his anger is not for the predator, it is for this disruption. His hard choice is etched on his brow. How to excise this dangerous novelty and restore the clan's focus before the hyena's test becomes a pack's attack. But one pair of eyes holds no malice. A young girl, barely on the cusp of womanhood, watches from across the fire. She sees not a threat, but a wonder. She sees the deliberate lines, the defiant shape, the radical act of making one's own form. Amid the fear and derision, a flicker of something new is kindled. Admiration. The hairstyle, once a private act, has become a potent and disruptive form of social signaling. It is a declaration of self in a world that only values the whole, an idea that is both a poison and a seed. The innovator meets the young girl's gaze across the flames, and in that silent, shared moment, the future of the clan hangs, fragile and unwritten.
They march side by
the tension
side,
does not break with the dawn. It calcifies. The innovator is an island in the stream of the clan's morning rituals, but she is no longer the only one. The young girl who watched her from across the fire now sits by the lake, her back to the clan. In her hand is a shard of tortoise shell. It's edge serrated. She looks at her own reflection, then back towards the innovator, who now works methodically, reshaping a loose strand of her placated hair. The girl hesitates for a heartbeat, then plunges her hands into the soft mud. The act of imitation is a silent, profound allegiance. A second crown is being made. This is the spark that catches when the girl returns to the group. Her own hair stiffened, shaped into simpler, less practiced coils. The ridicule is weaker, more uncertain. The hunters still scoff, but their derision lacks its earlier conviction. Two anomalies are harder to dismiss than one. They suggest a pattern. The matriarch watches, her expression unreadable, as the two women now sit together, sharing a quiet space. They are a faction of two, a splinter group defined not by blood, but by an idea. Within days, another, a young boy previously overlooked, uses charcoal, dust and animal fat to draw distinct black lines across his brow. The language is expanding. The resolution comes not from a confrontation, but from the slow, inexorable tide of cultural transmission. The elders do not approve, but they cannot stop the young from seeing the world with new eyes. This is a form of foresight they never anticipated. They prepared their children for droughts and predators, but not for the quiet rebellion of aesthetics. The new styles become a mark of the younger generation, a silent conversation within the clan. They signal alliances, modes, and, for the first time, a sense of selfhood distinct from the group. The innovators, once outcasts, are now the center of a new gravity, pulling the clan's future into a different orbit. This early step in human evolution is not about a sharper to law or a better hunting strategy, but about the birth of an abstract code. The old guard does not adopt the new ways, but they adapt. The matriarch, seeing the way the adorned youths now move with a renewed, cohesive purpose, finally gives a slow, almost imperceptible nod. The schism is healing, not by returning to the old ways, but by forging a new, more complex identity. The clan is no longer just a unit of survival. It is a tapestry of individuals, their threads of identity woven together. They are still a clan of hominid history, but the unspoken laws that govern them have been irrevocably rewritten. The first crown was made of hair, but it was a crown that redefined what it meant to belong. We look back across 80,000 years and see a simple act of decoration, but we are looking with eyes that have forgotten the weight of the world before such things existed. This was not mode fashion. It was a cognitive explosion. In that moment, by that muddy lake. An anonymous ancestor decided that the self was a canvas. She took the raw material of her own body and imposed upon it an idea. An order born not of necessity, but of imagination. This act of primitive technology was more radical than the sharpest flint axe, for it was a tool to shape the soul. It was a declaration that one's inner world could be projected outward. That identity could be authored every time we choose a color to wear, style our hair, or adorn our bodies. We are unknowingly participating in this ancient ritual. We are speaking the language that she first taught our kind to speak, the language that says, I am here, I am me, and this is how I have chosen to be seen. Her courage was not in facing a beast, but in facing the blank, unblinking gaze of her own people and showing them something they had never imagined, a choice. The chronicle of our past is written not only in bone, but in the echoes of brave ideas. Perhaps the first map was not of a territory, but of a dream.